Yeah, so my name is Victor Peace. Uh, Kenyan name Karanja, so Victor Karanja. Peace is a brand name, which I've accepted over the years. So I did BBIT in Strathmore. I graduated in 2013, but my professional journey began when I was in third year. So I moved to evening classes, and together with a few colleagues, we began the first e-commerce website at that time in Kenya called Chochote under iLab Africa. So we were the first cohort to be incubated under iLab. During that time, the biggest e-commerce platform that existed, which was not really e-commerce, but a listing website, was Dealfish, I remember. So just having the first e-commerce website was a very exciting journey for us. We did it for 2 years, and then uh, it failed terribly. We weren't able to gain profitability mainly because it was a very new concept in the market. A lot of people did not recognize e-commerce, and there was trust issues and that kind of thing. So there's so many barriers of entry. So we decided to stop and move on to other things. Yeah. So that's when I took up photography. And at the same time, I started working for different companies as a marketing executive, then a marketing manager over the years. So I've worked in about 5 companies as a marketing manager. And I've gained a lot of skills in terms of marketing, and I've concentrated on digital marketing. And that's what I'm going to be taking you through during this session. So I'm also really passionate about education and just passing my knowledge and my skills to ensure that the youth in Africa get a fighting chance in terms of creating a living for themselves. Yeah. So that's why I'm here, and maybe even as I continue the session and I take you through the session, I hope that even you, with your own skills, you'll be able to pass them on to someone else and make a better life for each and every person who's around you. Yeah. So without further ado, I'll just begin with the slides. I'll highlight a few skills that are very marketable right now in terms of either if you're deciding to start a new business for yourself or a side hustle. These are just a few skills that might help you to further this agenda. And then also, I'm going to look at, other than just identifying the different skills, we're going to look at how to market those skills and start making money out of them. So, in a nutshell, that's what we're going to be covering. Yeah, so there are different digital skills that are available, and I believe especially during this time with COVID and people being at home, I think a lot of us have been trying to figure out how do we make money for ourselves, especially for guys who've either been laid off or you received a pay cut. I think it's an awakening call to remind you that you need to actually explore digital as a platform in terms of making revenue for yourself. So there are different types of digital opportunities, and there are millions of them. So I'll just cover a few of them, especially those ones around my industry, which is marketing and sales. So some of them include data analytics. So I'll start with the easy entry opportunities. These are those opportunities that you can easily take up. They don't need a lot of time to develop, and most of them can be side hustles. So even if you're working for a company or in another organization, these are things that you can actually do on the side and make money out of them. So the first one is data analytics. I'm sure, like right now, we all know that there's an influx of data, and all digital platforms have a way of collecting your data. So how do you make sense of the data and advise maybe your company or maybe other companies on how to use this data to create more revenue for the company? So data analytics is really big. Something else that I found that is really big is edutech. Yeah, so in terms of edutech, I've realized that there's a big opportunity in terms of passing education through online platforms. So, and it's not just mainstream education, but also even skill-based education for farmers, uh, for like non-mainstream industries. So this is also a big area that you can explore. The other thing is visual content creation. This is, I believe that all of us are following blogs or vloggers or that kind of thing. So there's a lot of demand for visual content on the different platforms that you have. That's social media and uh, maybe websites or that kind of thing. So visual content is really big right now. So if you're working a 9 to 5. Maybe after you leave your job, your day job, in the evening, you can go create content and make money out of it. Something else that is really big is media buying. Media buying involves just buying ads on the different digital platforms. And yeah, so there are many businesses that are coming up, but a lot of people don't know how to actually promote their content online. So if you're able to master this kind of skill, then you'll be able to do this on the side and make money out of it. Buy ads for other people on Google, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and all these other platforms. Yeah. Then the other thing is influencer marketing, which is really big right now as well. So I've seen a lot of people who didn't have any following, like during this COVID period, gain a lot of following. Like there's a popular DJ in the States who had about 60,000 followers. And by the time last month was ending, he had about 400,000 followers based on just uh, performing on digital platforms. So influencer marketing is really big right now. And it might be something that you might also want to look at if you're comfortable with sharing yourself with the world. Something else that is also big, especially if you're into IT and you've done maybe BBIT and that kind of thing, is web development. Especially, I've realized that a lot of times before, like a few years before, if you wanted to create a website, you had to hard code it. But nowadays, thank God for CMS platforms like WordPress and that kind of thing. You can create a website easily. And with website creation, it has bigger margins. So for example, if you build a website on WordPress, then you can be able to, you'll probably spend about 10,000 shillings max. That's by buying the domain and everything else. And then you can easily charge 100,000 and above for building a website, which takes about 2 to 4 weeks to create. So that's also a big opportunity. Then social media management is also big. Maintaining other people's social media platforms is also really big right now. Then the other thing is e-commerce. E-commerce is also really big. I've seen a lot of people coming onto the different digital platforms, especially on Facebook and Instagram, where you start a page and start selling on these pages. And I saw a recent development where WhatsApp, what do you call it? They introduced this Facebook Pay, which you can be able to check out immediately, and it has been rolled out in Brazil. So hopefully in a few years, we're going to see it here in Africa. So that's also really big. So e-commerce is growing at a very fast pace. And I think even the government has taken note. And now we are seeing that taxation is being included and that kind of thing. That conversation has begun. So definitely this is a big industry, as you can see. Then finally, the one, so if you're a designer and you like visuals and that kind of thing, UI and UX, that's user interface and user experience, is really big right now as well. So for example, and this is mainly when you're developing applications and websites. So you just creating the wireframes and how the website will look like and presenting it to someone or a company might actually get you money. Yeah. So that's also a big industry right now. So these are some of them. This is not a conclusive list. There are so many other opportunities that you can actually explore in terms of side hustles, but these are the main ones that I've seen that are easy to get onto and make money out of, especially during this time of COVID. So personally, I've taken up a few of these. So I run an agency called The Portfolio. So what we do here, actually, everything in this list is part of what we do, and we've seen there's actually a huge market for anyone who wants to get into it. Okay, so in the next slide, I'm going to look at long-term opportunities. So this is if you're interested in building a long-term company. Instead of just building a side hustle, this might be something that you do full-time. So some of the big industries that we have right now are digital PR and marketing agencies. Before, we used to have a lot of agencies focusing on above the line marketing methods. These are billboards, TV ads, and that kind of thing. But now we are seeing a very big shift in terms of digital. So a lot of these agencies are also moving towards digital. So the fact that the industry has been reset, it means that there's so many opportunities for anyone who might want to actually join and start a PR or a marketing agency company that is digital. And the other thing is data science firms. Data science is also really big because you have, as I mentioned, we have an influx of data. So if you're able to make sense out of it, you can create firms that actually advise different companies on how to use their data to make profit. Yeah. Then another interesting area that has not been explored here in Kenya is AR and VR. This is augmented reality and virtual reality. It is also really big, but I've seen, at least using Samsung and these other commercial products, we've seen that VR is actually getting into Kenya. And especially if you go to different malls, you'll see the different VR games and that kind of thing. But that's just the surface. I believe that in a few more years, we're going to be seeing a lot of VR and AR type of businesses here in Kenya. So you might as well be the first. Then there's CRM integration solutions. So these are customer relationship management systems. So if you're able to maybe start learning about such systems. So for example, HubSpot, there's Microsoft, there's Zoho and those kind of things. So if you're able to actually know how to integrate these kind of solutions, another big one is Salesforce, just to mention. But if you're able to learn how to do this, you might actually find such a huge opportunity right now, because a lot of companies are moving the records from just having them on paper to using CRM solutions. So it's actually a really big industry as well. Then there's agri-tech. This is also really big. Agri-tech in collaboration with Internet of Things, IoT. So if you're also like into that, that's also a very big sector to look at. And then there's artificial intelligence, which is huge right now in Kenya, where we are seeing the rise of chatbots. We're seeing the rise of artificial intelligence applications. So for example, like one of the companies I worked for, it was called Arifo. So what they do is they use artificial intelligence to educate farmers. So what happens is they put a curriculum into an AI solution, and then they deliver it even using feature phones. So you don't need internet to actually access the content. So it was very interesting. So it's a huge industry right now. So if you're interested in AI, it might be something that you'd want to focus on. Then there's fintech, of course, which is also really big. Then there's also co-location. This is in terms of server space. So as you notice, if you have data science and all these things, there's so much data streaming in. And in Africa right now, we have very few co-location spaces. Yeah, so if you're able to come up with a co-location space that houses these digital platforms and their content, then it can actually be something huge to look at. Yeah, so those are just some of the few opportunities that I've seen around me. I believe there's so many others that you can explore, but yeah, so ideally, so in this case, we'll just imagine that you've been able to identify the opportunity, or rather the industry that you want to go into. So now the next big question is, how do you start to make money out of that particular industry? Yeah. So in this session, I'm going to take you through the marketing funnel, and just the different stages of the funnel that you need to pay attention to, even as you begin your business. So, because I believe that a lot of people will streamline the business process. That's writing the business plan, the finance side, but the marketing side is very vague for a lot of people. So, with this next couple of slides, I'm going to go through the different stages of the funnel and how to what kind of efforts you can do and what to do during those stages. Yeah, so I'll just begin. Yeah, so how do you grow your business using digital marketing? So this is what we're going to cover now. So before I even begin, I'll just state a few advantages right now of digital marketing. Before, when you started your business, a lot of people would go for traditional marketing platforms, such as TV, radio, and that kind of thing. And in as much as they were sort of effective, there are different downfalls to it. Thankfully, digital marketing has come in, and there's a huge wave where different companies are taking up digital marketing methods in the strategies in their plans. So the good thing with digital marketing, number one, is that there's reduced cost. It's cheaper. So whatever amount of money that you have, you can run a campaign on digital platforms. Yeah. So for example, if you have even, let's say, 5,000 shillings, and maybe you've started an e-commerce platform on Facebook or on Instagram, you can be able to run ads and you can start getting customers. Yeah. As opposed to traditional marketing methods, which are very expensive. So for example, like a TV ad will go between 300,000 and a million. So, but with as much as 5,000, you can be able to start promoting and getting ads on digital platforms. Then the other thing is that there's real-time results in terms of, so you see, for example, if you run an ad on radio, you have to wait for the ad to complete the cycle, and then at the end of the campaign, that's when you'd be able to see the statistics. But with digital marketing, you can just start an ad today, and then in the next 2 days, you can be able to start seeing how much traffic are you getting to your website, how many people have been reached by that particular ad, and how many customers have resulted from that particular ad. So that's a good thing. And the other thing is brand development, meaning that now you can build your brand online and engage with your consumers, which is an added advantage, because before companies used to be over there and then the consumer is over here. Yeah, so there was a huge gap between them. But right now we're seeing that you can actually interact with your customers and build brand loyalty and build a name over time. Yeah, then there's high exposure. So the good thing with digital marketing is that you can actually market to not just people who are in your area. You can also market to other markets, other countries, which is also a huge thing. Then the other thing is real-time engagement, as I mentioned in the brand development point. Then it's good for all business types. Then there's easy analytics, meaning that anyone can access a dashboard and see if an ad is performing or not. Or you can see whatever marketing efforts you're putting into digital, if they're working or not. So, and then finally, there's infinite potential. Any company can rise at any time. There was a time where the big companies used to dominate the industry, but now we're seeing even smaller companies coming up every day, and mainly because of digital, and they're able to challenge the bigger companies. So there's infinite potential. In terms of digital marketing, there's two types of digital marketing. There's one that's outbound, another one is inbound. Outbound is more intrusive, so you don't ask for consent. It interrupts the consumer, but inbound is more like it seeks to add value to the consumer. So that's the difference. That outbound is intrusive. So an example would be, let's say you go to Java today and you buy a cup of coffee, and then you go home, and then after a few minutes, because you paid using M-Pesa, you start getting ads on your phone. So that's outbound. It's intrusive, and they didn't ask for your consent for them to start sending you marketing messages. And the thing you'll notice is that it's very annoying. So even as you start your business, you'll find that it won't be an effective way to start marketing. Yeah. So don't use outbound methods, because a lot of people are getting angry every day. Every time I receive a call from, let's say, a company from Zuku, I'm like, I didn't want to be marketed to. Yeah. So, but the good thing with inbound is that it actually seeks for permission first. So, for example, if you come to the website and you leave your contact details there, I'll put a checkbox there telling you that, asking you if you'd want to be a part of the mailing list. And if you tick and you say yes, then I can be able to send you the content, and you won't feel offended by me sending you the content because you accepted. Yeah. So inbound marketing is a business methodology that seeks to add value to the customer. So this is what you're going to focus on. So even as you choose the business that you want to start, it's important to start thinking about what inbound marketing methods are you going to use. And this is what you're going to cover in the next couple of slides. In front of you is a marketing funnel. So the marketing funnel seeks to show you the different stages that a buyer goes through, like from when they come into contact with your product to when they actually purchase the product. And it's in form of a funnel because, for example, like when you start the first campaign or start shouting about your product on the digital platforms, you'll find a lot of people who start writing to you and asking you about how much is this product, how much are you selling it for, and then so on and so forth. So you find a lot of people who will start asking about the product. Yeah. So in this stage, you'll find, let's say, 100 people who are interested, and then the people who actually click on your ad and maybe go to your website to see more of your product are going to probably be around 60. So the number will keep shrinking until at the end, you're probably going to have maybe 10 people who actually purchase your product. So it's important to know that that's how it works, that it starts with a lot of people who inquire about your product. Then eventually at the end of the funnel, you'll find that fewer people who actually purchase. And that's a normal thing for different businesses. Yeah. So I'll take you through the different stages. As you can see here, it starts with attract, convert, then close, then delight. But there are two main important stages that are not included in the funnel here. So I'll just go through them in the slides to come in the next slide. So as you can see, so we have define, create, attract, convert, close, and delight. So yeah, so these first two stages are arguably the most important stages, even when you're starting your own business and you're trying to market your business and your products. So the first stage is define, which is like crucial. Like if you do not go through the define stage and you do not properly strategize the define phase, then you're bound to fail in the other stages. Yeah. So I'll just start with the define stage. So define stage is where you define who your customer is. And I believe if you're into business or you've done a marketing course before, you're probably familiar with this, but you need to identify who your target audience is. And it's a bit cliche, but a lot of people don't do that. Actually, a lot of people start by going to the attract stage. Yeah, because it's a flowery stage where you start posting. I believe that if you, let's say you're selling shoes, you decided to start selling shoes on Facebook or on Instagram, the first thing you're going to do is probably open a social media page and then start posting shoes there and start shouting about it and sharing on WhatsApp and that kind of thing. But that's not where you're supposed to start. You're supposed to start at the define stage, where you actually identify who your customer is, and there are different ways to do this. So the different stages. So the first way, the first stage is the questionnaire and requirements analysis. Then after that, you do a buyer persona check. Then you create a messaging document. Then finally, you have your marketing mix. Yeah. So I'll start with the questionnaire, which is what I've attached in the presentation. I believe after the session, you're going to have access to the presentation. So you can take the questionnaire that I've included here, and then you can use it for your own business even as you begin. So the questionnaire seeks to identify the different, what do you call it, like the different logic that you have for your business. So for example, like the first question would be, please describe what your business does in a few sentences, in like 1 or 2 sentences, your unique selling point. So then the other thing is, how are you currently attracting your customers? That's if your business is already running. So are you using, is it word of mouth? And I know a lot of people get stuck at word of mouth because when you start a business, you'll notice that the people who start following you or the people who support you are your friends and your family. But after that, it's so hard for a lot of business people to know how to get more customers who do not know them. Yeah. So this is an important question to answer, where you identify the different channels or methods that you're using to market your business. Then the other thing is, who's your audience, then who's your competition, and so on and so forth. So for this session, this might be your homework today, even as you go back to think about the business that you're starting or the business that you've already started. Maybe try and fill out this form and then this questionnaire, and then you're going to be able to answer a lot of questions. Yeah. Then the stage 2 is the buyer persona. So I believe you've also, if you've not heard about it, but buyer personas are semi-fictional representations of your target audience. So this includes the demographics, the behavioral patterns, motivations, and the goals that they have. So by identifying this, you're going to be able to know who exactly your customer is, where do they spend time on, what do they spend time on, what type of content do they take up, and that kind of thing. Yeah. So a good example would be if today we were all going for a hunt. Yeah. We were going to hunt, let's say, let's say a moose, this one here. Yeah. So we woke up in the morning and we were like, today we're going to hunt a moose. So the first thing you're probably going to do is try and identify where does the moose stay, like what location or where are they located. Then maybe what time of day do they come out, so that if you're going to go and hunt them, we need to be on time. Then what tools will I need to hunt a moose based on maybe the size of the moose or how it looks. Does the moose hang out in groups or as individuals? So that kind of thing. So by the time you understand all that, then when you go to hunt, it's easy for you to actually get the moose. So it's the same thing with marketing and digital marketing. So it's good to actually sit down and ask yourself who your customer is. And some of the ways to identify who your customer is, especially if you've not started the business already, is number one, looking at your competitors. So you can look at the maybe top 5 competitors that you have, and then start doing an audit on them and start seeing who buys from them and what type of people buy from them. And then that's how you can develop your buyer persona. Then the other way would be looking at different metrics and platforms. So for example, you have things like Google Trends and that kind of thing. So you can use other tools to identify what type of industry you're in, and then now look at what type of persona do you have as a customer. Yeah. Then of course, if you already have a business that's running, it's very easy. You can just look at your data. So if you've been running a website or a social media platform for your business, then you can easily go to the insights section and start seeing who your buyers or your customers are. So once you do that, your buyer persona should look something like this. So you can see the background, you can see finances, online behaviors, and that kind of thing. Yeah. So using the buyer persona, you can be able to identify what channels to use for your marketing. Because I know a lot of people who start businesses want to be on all digital platforms. So maybe you'll open an e-commerce store and you start opening a Facebook page, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and all that kind of thing. And especially if it's a small business, you're probably the only one who's going to be running all those platforms. So you'll find that the first week you're going to be posting and you're going to be active. Then after 2 weeks, it dies out and you stop posting and people forget about your business. So using the buyer persona, you can easily identify your target audience and know what platforms to start with and give priority. And then eventually now grow. As you grow your team, you can continue and grow into the other platforms. Yeah. So that's why the buyer persona is very important. Then finally, after you do all that, you can be able to now come up with your marketing mix. So after you've answered the questions from the questionnaire and then you've done your buyer persona, then you can be able to choose what channels, or rather the marketing mix that you're going to use for your business. So for example, like you can say, based on my target audience, I've seen that this guy is a corporate person, and that means that they spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and maybe Google Ads will also be good. So you can be able to identify the different platforms that you're going to use, the different advertising methods that you're going to use, and that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's the define stage. That's why it's very important, because it informs your whole business process in terms of marketing. So as you continue, I just want to mention the different types of media that we have, and I believe most of us have interacted with these different types of media. So the first one is the paid media. So paid media includes pay-per-click. This is if you're buying ads on Google, using Google Ads. If you're buying ads on Facebook, using the Business Manager and that kind of thing. Those are paid ads. Other paid ads include paid influencers and that kind of thing, paid content. So anything you spend money on in terms of promotion, that's paid media. Then you have earned media. Earned media, you earn it over time. So after building your brand after a long time, that's when you start getting shares, reposts, reviews, and so on and so forth. And finally, we have the owned media, which is the most important. So this includes assets like your website, your social media pages, and that kind of thing. So ideally, how all this come into play is that the paid media and the earned media are supposed to all link to your owned media. Yeah. So every time when you're running an ad or a campaign or any post that you put out on your social media platforms, make sure that it leads to an owned media. Yeah. So for example, if you woke up in the morning today and you're selling, let's say, I don't know, electronics, and you put out a picture of a fridge, and or maybe you're selling decor, yeah. Then you put out a nice picture of home setup. So it's always important to include a link or a call to action that leads someone to your website or your paid like your owned media, so that they can actually complete the purchase there, and you can be able to collect the information from that stage. Yeah. So that's how it works. So paid media and media, then they all lead to the owned media. So that's all I wanted to mention in this slide. I'll go to the next stage, which is now create. So you've already identified who your target audience is, and then you've already done your buyer persona. So the next thing is actually now, this is the fun part when you start creating the content or creating the different platforms that you're going to be using. So That's why I was saying that the first stage, the define stage, is very important because this is what will inform what type of content or rather what type of assets you create in this stage. So, for example, if you're going to create a website and you identify that your target audience is a corporate person, then you know that you need to keep your website clean. The fonts are supposed to be at a particular type of font and that kind of thing. Then, if you're going to create videos or photos or photography for your business, and you know that this person who I identified in the define stage likes this kind of feel in pictures and in videos, and that's what you're going to create. And so, yeah, so this will inform like everything that this includes creating all the different assets that you're going to use for your business, which is very important. Yeah. Something else I'd want to mention here is, especially if you're writing a lot of blog content and that kind of thing. So blog content or photos, if your business is photo intensive or video intensive, it's very important to use a management system. So for example, like you could have a content calendar where you can put out, you can schedule all your content and know what type of content you're going to post early in advance, so that you're not always trying to come up with content on the fly. So the next stage is attract. So attract. So finally, you've been able to create the content in advance. You've created the content calendar and you've been able to schedule all your content pieces and how you're going to put them out. If it's your ads, you've already created all the ads that you're going to be using. So the next thing is now getting on ground and starting to shout about your product using digital platforms. And this is the attract stage. Yeah. So attract stage is where you shout about your product. You try as much as you can to get a lot of people to find out about your business. And there are different ways to do this. There's posting on social media platforms. There's blog content, blog posts, and that kind of thing. Blog posts are very important, especially in terms of search engine optimization. So if you want your website or your business to rank up on Google and people to find it on the first page of Google, then blog posts are very important, especially for SEO. Yeah, so that's a very important channel. Then there's also paid media. You can run ads on Google. One of the platforms that I found, one of the ads platforms that I found very effective on Google is the Google display ads for email. So if you can be able to take advantage of that as well. It's very huge right now. They introduced it about one or 2 years ago. So just because it's new, it means that you can actually get a lot of people at a very cheap price. So check out Google display ads on email. Yeah. Then the other thing is running contests, getting coverage on other people's blogs and websites, using influencers, that kind of thing. So this stage is mostly just shouting about your product and trying to get as many leads or customers as you can get, so that you can be able now to take them through the funnel and at the end get a substantial amount of people who get out of the funnel and buy your product. Yeah, so the attract stage, these are the different things you can do. There's email marketing, there's posting presentations and videos on LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. Yeah. If you have any questions, just feel free to write on the chat. Then finally, so you've been able to shout about your product, and now a lot of people know about your product. Yeah. So the next question is, like, how do you get them to move from just asking questions or maybe just landing on your product and get them to buy your product? So this is the convert stage, yeah, which is one of the most important stages. So ideally, there are different ways to make people who are interested, or rather, we call them leads in marketing, people who are interested in your product or your services. How do you get them to be customers and purchase your product? Yeah. So there are different ways to do this. Number one, there is leads management. So this is where the CRM came in. So you can have a place where you have an organized way of looking at your leads and your prospects. So you divide them according to the different stages that they're in. So for example, if you sent a proposal to someone, then you can have a stage called proposal, then proposal sent. Then afterwards, you can be like, so you can be lead, then proposal sent, then contacted, maybe called, then finally purchased or closed. So if by having these stages, you can be able to take a customer through the different stages and know where exactly they are in the buying process. But yeah, so how do you convert all these people? So another thing is including call to actions on your different posts. So if you have, if you're posting a nice chair, don't just post a nice chair and write nice chair. Remember to say if you want to write, if you want to buy this chair, click on this link. So always include call to actions in the different posts that you put out. And yeah, so that you'll be able to generate sales out of the leads that you have. Then, so also another thing that's important on this stage, I've noticed that one stage is missing, which is the close stage. Other techniques that you can use, there's something we call retargeting in marketing. So if you've noticed, if you've ever gone on Jumia, on the Jumia website, and clicked on an item or a product, and then you went back to Facebook, you might have noticed that the ads are following you everywhere. Yeah. So this is what we call retargeting. So ideally what happens is you install a piece of code from Facebook onto your website, and then you can run an ad for anyone who visits that particular product. So they'll keep seeing the product, following them throughout the different pages or different channels or different websites that they go to. So that's what we call retargeting. So that's another way to convert your customers from leads to customers. Because the logic is when someone comes to the website, maybe they were just perusing and window shopping, and the fact that they clicked on a particular product, then it means they were actually interested in buying it. Maybe they couldn't buy it because maybe that wasn't the right time, or maybe they didn't have money at that particular time. But if you remind them after 1 week or 2 weeks, then they might actually buy the product. So that's why retargeting is very important. Yeah. Then we also have remarketing in email, on email. Yeah. So for example, if you go to Amazon and you put an item in the cart, in the shopping cart, and then you leave Amazon and you don't make the purchase, then you might get an email afterwards asking you to, like reminding you that you left some items in the cart. So that's what we call remarketing as well now on email. Yeah. So this is also another strategy that you can use with your business to remind people to actually complete their purchase. Yeah. So there are different other methods. There's chatbots nowadays where you go to a website and then when you click around and you're not making a decision, you'll see a chatbot pop up from the bottom asking you if you need any help. And yeah, so you can interact with it and then it might help you to actually make a decision and purchase the product that you wanted to purchase. Yeah, so finally, after you've been able to convert and get your clients, a lot of people make a mistake of leaving your clients there. Yeah. So after they've bought a product from you, you leave them and you're like, I've already made my money, so cheers. But that's the wrong thing to do. You're supposed to move on to the delight stage. So the delight stage is also very important because this is why you keep, because ideally what happens is that you get more customers based on referrals. Yeah. So if you notice that anytime someone comes to a website and purchases something, or maybe even on Facebook or on Instagram, and they purchase something and they don't find a good experience, they're the same people who are going to go and write reviews about you and tell people about you. So if you didn't give them a nice, happy experience at the end, then probably you're going to go and tell other people about you, and you're not going to get a lot of people coming back to buy from you. So it's very important to focus on the delight stage as well. So this is the stage of the funnel where you actually uh, put out strategies in terms of how do you make your customer happy and satisfied after they've made a purchase. So different ways could be, so maybe you could organize a goodie pack after someone has purchased something. Make sure that the process at the end is very convenient. So if you're doing deliveries, make sure that the person who delivers the products does a good job. Ask them to give you a review, or maybe ask them if they need anything else. Maybe you can send them something, a gift on during their birthday based on the information that you have on your database, that kind of thing. And that's what creates a delight stage. And something also that is very important is social media listening. So where you use different tools and platforms online to actually listen to what people are talking about your product and how they feel about your product. Then you can be able to improve your experience. Yeah. So yeah, so those are the different stages of the funnel. Those are the different stages of the funnel, and using those different stages and what we've talked about, then if you start a business, then you're bound to actually succeed. So just remember that you have to define your audience. That's the first thing we learned. So define. So after you define, now using the information from the defined stage, start creating the right type of marketing assets and material that you need based on the define stage. Then after that, now move on to attract, where you start shouting about your product. And then after you shout about your product, try as much as you can to get the people who are interested in your product or people we call leads to convert to actually become customers. Then after they convert to become customers and they purchase from you, remember to delight and make them happy after the purchase. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from the session. So we've looked at the different digital skills and how to actually use marketing to start making money out of them.